Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Wolf with Attitude. And in today's video, I am going to explain how a New York City dweller, like myself, ended up in northeast Thailand, where the majority of the land is all farming. I was born and raised in New York City, lived there from birth. Back in 1975 to 2012, I got used to the hustle of the big city. Originally from Queens, New York, raised in a full Italian household. I have traveled outside the United States over the years, until 2012, but never throughout Asia. Been to Canada, Italy, France, and Cairo, Egypt, but never gone into Asia. Well, East Asia. I was working in Midtown Manhattan, in precious metals, and in 2011, my employer thought it was a good idea for me to travel to Thailand for the international shows for metals, such as gold and silver, as well as gems. This international show happens twice a year. I was mainly going to the shows in New York City, but never the one in Bangkok, and never been to Thailand at that point, which meant to get a passport all set up and travel in the far distance land. So a new passport and booked airline ticket on Japan Airlines. Cause no, there are no direct flights from New York's Kennedy Airport to Bangkok International, and ended up 6 hours waiting time in Tokyo in between. Never been to this part of the world before. It was a mixed emotion of both excited and anxious. At the same time, being so far away from what I am used to. But work is work. The trade shows happen all over the world where companies from so many countries come to the event, and I was representing my employer's company in precious metals trade. Gold, silver, and sometimes platinum. The flight from New York to Thailand alone, being that I had to stop in Japan, took nearly 2 days. So it is a very long trip. Exactly like halfway around the world. And the time zone difference. So I had a week's time left in Thailand's capital. In that week's time, a weekend was in there before returning to America. I met a business associate he is from Thailand, who already made trades to my employer back in the States, and asked me if I wanted to come to his part of the Thai country, the province I am in right now, called Yupan Ratchathani, the northeast part of Thailand. It was just for the weekend. I ended up in a village area, surrounded by 3 or 4 villages around the location I was in, and witnessed things that touched me in my heartstrings. I saw with my own eyes, not just the poor, but extreme poverty. I have seen poor in New York City, but this was a different poor. Kids running in the village without shoes, from each wood box houses, families eating rice, and some greens, and maybe if lucky some small pieces of meat. Mostly fish from the rivers. Could say it was an eye-opener to something I haven't really witnessed from back home. A very humbling experience. 2 days of my life changed my life. The friend that invited me introduced me to his chief of the village, just to meet the guy, and through that, I was watching all and what was around. I told both my friend and chief I would like to return to Yuban. In fact, what I have seen in just 2 days made it instant that I wanted to return. Some would say hasty choice, impulsive even, perhaps. But I couldn't help myself. During my flight back to the States, I was thinking a lot about this idea I was having, and how would my own family would take the idea. How would this work out? It wasn't like choosing between vanilla or chocolate. It was something to alter my life, at least in that chapter of my life. And that was coming back to Thailand and do what I could to help those that had a hard time helping themselves. Being I am not Thai, I had to do a lot of research. I can't own property in the country, but I was able to rent out the now home I am in. I could have stayed in New York and make a comfortable 6-figure salary each year. Into a foreign world, totally different than my own, a different culture and language. When I got back to New York, I told my employer what I was planning to do and gave him good amount of time to let him know, so he can find a replacement for me. I told my mother and family what I felt I needed to do. They all were supportive with my choice, but also concerned, but still supportive. I kept going back and forth to get everything settled. And in 2012, I planted myself in northeast Thailand, Now do I plan to ever get back to the States? Yes. I've been doing what I could to help ever since, helping with reconstruction, going to see villagers, doing what I could that was needed. And that is my story how I ended up in Thailand. I do plan on returning to the US. In fact, I had plans already before the pandemic. But then we all know what happened with COVID-19. Since the pandemic began, work itself slowed down to an almost halt. The social distance and everyone in their homes. One can only hope there's relief with that soon. At least in the near future. Yupon Ratchathani is not like New York City. Far from it. But I have had no regrets. I do miss my home though, and one can only wait for the best. Anyways, I thought I would share this out. And thank you for listening in. This is Wolf with Attitude. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you again, or, as they say in Thai, Kap Kun Kap. As always. Peace out.